Hey guys, tonight is part 2 of my interview with lifelong contactees Paul and Syann Hamden. See you in about 5 minutes. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. California Haunts Radio. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so. I've got a great show for you tonight. This couple was on, I think, about a month ago, and it was so fascinating. Lifelong contactees, and it's not only about being contactees, though. It's about what happened after that. What that stuff helped them lead into to help them in this life. So it's going to be interesting hearing about all that today. If you're watching from Facebook, please be sure to hit that follow button if you haven't done so already, and please be sure to show us some love. If you like what you hear, show us some love. Throw some thumbs up and hearts my way. I'd appreciate it. If you're watching from YouTube and you haven't subscribed already, oh my gosh, you're missing out. I've got over 541 videos sitting over there, and they're all differing topics. I'm a journalist. I like to mix it up. And a good example of that was last night because we talked about turning trauma into something positive. So as you can tell, I like to, change it up. Anyhow, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube site, please do that as well. And show me some love. Again, we're always looking for love. The more love we get, the better it circulates through YouTube and Facebook, right? Because there's those horrible algorithms that we have to deal with as video producers. So help me out with that, okay? All right. So my guest tonight, the Hamdens, our lifelong contactees, and it was interesting. Last time we talked about, excuse me, my allergies. It was interesting because last time they were on, we talked about their experiences aboard the craft and the different alien species that they saw aboard the craft. But I think we might have a little conversation about that yet today. Plus, they have some interesting things they do. They use transmediumship to help people. She is an artist. So there's all kinds of things that came out of that. And I've heard of that happening with other contactees where they get abducted, and because they're using their mind to communicate, it opens something up. Because we're all born psychic. But at some point, we get busy in our lives and we lose the ability. It's there, but we don't use it. And so it's like anything else. You don't use your car, and you get in after 15 years and try to start, and the car is going to be like, running real rough and stuff. And that's what happens with your psychic abilities. It just kind of gets put off on the back burner. And people that tend to get I know the abduction thing. People that tend to be contactees have that open up again because that's the way the aliens are communicating with them. Anyway, I'll shut up about it because I think they can explain it better than I can. So here we go. Hello.
G'day. How's it going?
How you guys doing today?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, we're all good.
It is great to have you back.
Thank you.
It was so fun last time. I learned so much about, what it is to be a contactee and stuff, and it's just incredible. So what I was starting out with, obviously you heard the intro. Let's talk about that a little bit. About the psychic ability thing where, we do tend to suppress them as we go through life because we get busy and we don't utilize it. It's like anything else. So what's your experience with that being life, being contactees and having those abilities open up, and how does that work?
So generally, every person on the planet has psychic abilities because everybody comes from somewhere. Like everybody has to come from spirit realm to incarnate. Then they come here and they suddenly realize that they've got these abilities, or they may develop abilities. And so that's just an intuitive, natural state that you're normally in outside of the physical body. But then when you get contacted or abducted, maybe, what happens is the abilities that are your natural intuitive abilities are enhanced. And a lot of people then start to get a lot of communication with spirits. So the whole process is very organic, yeah.
I guess when we think about a lot of the people we work with who are contactees, I think it's probably fair to say most of them I'm looking at you quizzically. I'm racking my brain, but most of them do have other phenomena going on around them.
Yeah.
So definitely the contact enhances or increases the opportunity for extra, paranormal phenomena going on around them as well. You can explain why that happens. It's all about frequency and all of that.
Basically, if you imagine that you're in a swimming pool, just surrounded by water, and you're underneath while you're sitting here, so you're in, you're in an oxygenated environment. You're also, those oxygens are electrons, the molecular structure, and so basically you're embedded in a fabric, an energetic fabric. Spirit people and others are able to use that fabric to interact with us, because we breathe in oxygens full of electrons, we breathe out an exchange as well. And so because we're surrounded by all of this fabric, these beings, these spirits, these entities, whether physical or non-physical, are able to use it, much like you would a radio wave from a broadcast station, that it can be received by a radio. We and you, we are all radios as well. And so when they communicate through this fabric, we are able to then, in some way, depending on how trained we are, start to understand how to communicate with them as well.
So doesn't that, well, like you said, we start to communicate with them as well. Now when you return though, you're still able to utilize those powers, right?
Sorry, return from where?
From the ship itself. Once you meet them and you're
Yeah,
using.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what happens is when you're on board, there'll be, or when you're actually being contacted or off craft,
Mm-hmm.
the frequency that the beings emit will uh, resonate you up into a higher vibratory state. So quite often when people are doing some level of channeling or something, and they are in contact with another being, an interdimensional entity, it forces the standard etheric body vibrational frequency to shift up. And in doing so, for a time after that process of contact, of channeling, the person may have heightened abilities. And it's only after, as the energy fades away, that the vibration of the person starts to drop back down to about the, like it's called grounding, to the Schumann frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And they may find that quite often their abilities are heightened after contact as well. That's why people generally have more other type of contact after being contacted or being on craft.
Now, when you talk about other type of contact, what does that mean?
Spirit people, also the ability to dream much more in a heightened state in the astral. When you sleep at night, you lift up out of your, or will you move out of yourself in some way, and in doing so, you link into the astral fabric, and the astral fabric has within it all the imagery that's ever been thought by any human that's ever lived. And so, when you are in a heightened vibratory state, you'll be energized, but you'll also be much more psychic, mediumistic as well.
So when you came back, when did you realize that you could utilize those skills for work, to help people?
It was years later. I think that in the past, uh, this was never spoken of. So, when people were taken on board craft years and years ago, you never told anybody. And if you did have any abilities, you kept them to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
These days, of course, if someone has an encounter, they're straight onto social media. There's 500 people there to help them or tell them all about their own contact. And people are much more open and willing to talk about contact on various levels as well. So in the past, the people that were abducted or contacted did it very, very tough.
So for the people that don't know your story, can you do a quick synopsis of the contact you had and all that?
Yeah, for sure. So did you want to start first?
No, you go.
Oh, you want me to? All right.
Yeah,
So,
give me a chance to work out what I'm going to say.
okay, good. I started seeing extraterrestrials when I was about 18 months old, but of course I didn't know the difference. I thought it was normal. I was on craft at 5. I was probably on craft before that, but I can only remember from 5 seeing lots of other people on craft, and I thought it was normal that everybody was on craft. And so I never spoke about it to anybody because I thought that it was just normal. Until one day I was found myself outside of my house at night as a 5-year-old, crying because I'd been let go, taken out of the craft, and put back in the front lawn. And I kept saying, "But I want to go home." And then I spoke to my mother about that, and she realised that something else was going on. And I think it caused a few issues with my parents in regards to contact. Then I continued on. When I got to about 18, a craft came, and I had some friends with me, and the craft was only maybe 8, meters or yards from us, and we were able to see the beings inside. And I had 3 friends with me when that happened. When I was 28, I was contacted again. That was a one-on-one situation in the house physically. We've had craft land often. Once they landed in New South Wales, and I had about approximately 15 people with me when the craft landed. So we've had good, solid, constant contact. But through that, I started to meditate, do astral traveling, and I realised that I had a mediumistic ability that was able to be utilised by the Zetas in a way where they could help people. They started to then develop me in a way where they could work with other humans through me. And then in doing so, we realised that humans have this exponential capacity to work with different ranges of vibration and frequency. And this means to things like healing and development, altered states work, trance work, mediumistic abilities. And so I started up a Moodle school, and we run all of our own educational courses on there for the public.
Fascinating. And like you talk about educational courses, what do those entail?
The Moodle educational portal that we run runs meditation courses. I also run meditation courses online once a week, and they're live where we talk about meditation, and then I take people through a guided meditation. The second course is based on energy work, and it teaches people how to recognize their own energy and the difference between their energy and the energy around them. And it also has little practical exercises in it as well as videos. The one after that is based around protection so that people can clear their own spaces, hold their ground in, against sort of any physical or etheric type of energies. That's quite an extensive course. After that is the guide course where people start to work with their spirit guides. And then we move on to the altered states, possibly mediumistic trance work. And then we bring in the big boys and girls courses, which are the point of origin courses for people that want to contact extraterrestrials but not using C5.
Contact their own race.
Contact their own race, yeah.
I love what you're teaching because I know I teach basic psychic development myself, and people don't realize once you open that door, not everything nice is going to come through there.
That's why there needs to be a protection course.
And I've seen psychics that I'm not going to say cocky, but new psychics that are going around doing their thing, and then all of a sudden they come out screaming because there's weird stuff coming at them. It's like you gotta learn to shut the door and deal with it.
We, in regards to spirits work, we like the other day, we had an earthbound spirit come into the house and wouldn't leave. And so I said to it, "Hey, I'm going out. Would you like to come with me?" And I took it with us, and we were driving along, and it was in the back seat because I could see objectively. And I waited and waited for the energy to drop because it was trying to create a link back to this physical place. And in the end, it realised that it couldn't come back. So if you don't even know that you can do those sorts of things, then yeah, you probably do need to do a course.
Now, when you talk about trance mediumship, what is that exactly?
Trance mediumship.
Yeah.
Everybody has different terms, and understands different things from these phrases, trance, mediumship. We understand that to mean that the spirits we're working with have assisted us into going into an altered state, and that altered state is sufficient enough that if the ability is there and the training is there, that those spirit people can affect some form of communication through the person or the medium. Now, whether that's a transfiguration process where they just show themselves over somebody's face or entire body, or whether they actually speak through the person. But this isn't a channeling process where you're potentially receiving information and repeating it. This is a process whereby the spirit people are actually joining with your own etheric body or your own energy body to affect that communication. So, we like to have a little phrase where we say it's kind of like a temporary possession, but a temporary possession with consent with a spirit that you know extremely well. And there are all sorts of safety protocols involved in that. So that spirit person will come through and talk and give evidence to prove who they are as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you take that to the nth degree, then you can use ectoplasm and photoplasm, and that ectoplasm can be used to move furniture, to produce floating heads, as in one sitting that Syann went to. There's many things. Spirits can create ports as well using ectoplasm. They can do lots of different things. I've seen them levitate people using it.
I never knew about that. That's something new for me.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about, to learn from you, When you realized the gifts that you were given, how long did it take for you to get to the point where you guys are now, that you're giving classes and stuff?
Oh, many years.
Yeah.
Look, firstly, I think that everybody's always in training and development. There isn't anybody that should be able to go, "Oh no, I've got to where I need to be." Anyone that's being taught by a guide, a spirit guide, or an extraterrestrial guide, realizes that there's so much they don't know, and that just on a daily basis, you're just there working with them to help and support others. And so basically your whole life is just a journey of training.
Yeah.
Now, can you communicate also with the with the alien races? Are you able to do that with your abilities?
Yeah. So we use a process that the Zetas have taught us to connect to them. And then in doing that, we can what's called heterodyne to other races. And that's called a gateway event. And those gateway events mean that other beings, Arcturians, Sirius A, interdimensional entities, can also speak through us to people. I'm a public medium, which means that I do sittings in public and people can speak to these beings through myself. Also, another thing that does happen sometimes is we discussed before about fabric, the energetic fabric around us. The beings can often semi-materialize into these fabric and show themselves to people that are in the room with us as well. So,
absolutely fascinating. Syann, you do unique art, correct?
I try to. Yeah, I do.
I see that over your shoulders. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
it's my favorite.
Yeah, I've been doing that for a while now. I don't know, about 10 years or so. I was always a bit arty, always crafting things, making things out of nothing, and I never had any formal training in art. I nearly did, but I went for archaeology instead. But I never stopped painting and until I did, and then I didn't paint for goodness knows how many years. And then when my development with the spirit people picked up, I felt the urge to start painting again, and it was all very very whimsical and lovely. And then when the Zetas kind of made themselves known, the art changed quite drastically. Now, I didn't realize what was going on at the time, but I understand now that they were somehow transferring their energy through me as I was painting in a slightly altered state to create the images that get produced like that one. So it's been a very organic, natural flowing process. But I think many contactees draw, they create art. It becomes quite compulsive and obsessive sometimes. I think for a lot of us, we get given these symbols in our minds, and we just have to create something with them. Whether we're just scribbling them all day long, like say at school, I would have pads of paper scribbled with triangles and triangles on top of triangles, all sorts of geometric shapes. Eventually, they've ended up in these kind of hopefully nice to look at paintings for people.
Beautiful. Well, when you're drawing and you're painting, do you feel that it's you actually doing the artwork, or do you think it's a Zeta or someone channeling through you?
It depends how I'm working. So that one, for instance, that style, I describe it as very free flowing, that I then embed the symbol into afterwards. When I'm doing something like that, there's no thought process from me at all. It's very much a channeled experience, if you like. I'd say I would definitely be in not a complete altered trance state. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. And so in a light altered state, absolutely, like you're zoned out, or you're daydreaming. You're not thinking about what you're doing. You're just doing it very intuitively. The other paintings that I create, they're a bit different. They're very heavily constructed imagery, and they're given. So I'll be given the image in my mind, and I know exactly how it has to look, but I'm then just fully consciously just mapping that out, drawing it and planning it. But the image has to be exactly as I've sort of seen it in my third eye, if you like. Yeah.
Very interesting. And do you think that and I know you're getting these visions from the spirit from the spirit realm and maybe the aliens. Do you think that your time aboard the ships helped increase this ability?
I think not necessarily time aboard in isolation, but I think the increased contact in all its forms definitely elevates the amount of symbology I receive and the downloads that I get in regards to the artwork. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the contact happens in so many different ways. I mean, I'd suggest that our recall of being on craft is probably the least, the smallest element of our contact at this point. Most of our contact at this point is in just normal day to day, really. Whether we're being visited overnight in our premises, or whether it's in a sitting situation where they're talking through Paul and actually showing themselves, which they did a few weeks ago, which was quite spectacular to witness. That's much more frequent. The recall of being on board craft. I don't know. How often do we reckon we get that?
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
A couple of times a year.
A couple of times a year that we remember it. And now, how many times we're actually on board, though, that's an entirely different matter. Who knows?
So you guys are still being taken?
No, we don't. We're not taken. The difference is that I'll give you an example. So one day I was asleep and they came into the room and I said to them, no, I don't want to go. I'll roll back over. I went back to sleep. And then I woke up a couple of minutes later. I was walking outside. I think, how did I get out here? But I could see a big craft in front of me, the sort of an opening, and I just walked onto it because I thought, well, I'm up anyway. I think for myself, it's probably a little bit different. It's more of an automatic process that I know that I want to be on craft. I might be tired, but once I get on there, I feel energized. I'm happy to be on craft. I've been doing it since I was a child. The beings basically just ignore me walking around as well. Um, it just, I would never ever now perceive it as being an abduction ever.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
more like I can just do whatever I want.
Mhm. Mhm. I find this all interesting, in that I've heard stories of people that you know end up being contactees, get abducted, and they come back and they have all these really cool talents, kind of like what happened to you guys, where where she's doing her art and you can do all the channeling and everything.
Yeah, it
So
does. I mean, it does happen. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, yeah. So tell me about the outside work you do, because you were talking about the classes you teach. Do you work with individuals?
Yes, we do work one on one with people through mentoring, and we have memberships, and the memberships make it easier for people to get access to the training that we provide. It means that people can also develop in the ways that they want to develop, can look
Hmm.
at their specific abilities and how to enhance them. We use our guides, and our guides offer a lot of good advice to people about ways that people contact spirits and extraterrestrials. And so these mentoring sessions that we are something that are becoming quite popular with people as
Yeah,
well.
well, it's just such a broad range. Some people are just seeking sort of more spiritual counseling.
Hmm.
Some people are developing mediums. They're well on their journey, and they just need a hand to overcome a blockage. Some people like to practice their trance
Yeah.
sitting with us online, and we find that well, COVID kind of forced us to find out that it works extremely well online. When we were all
Mm.
shut down and we couldn't all, get out the house anymore. That's kind of what brought us to working with people online, because of
Mm.
course we couldn't have people come over anymore, and we couldn't go and run the workshops that we used to.
Right.
That's kind of how we got into doing such a large amount of online work.
Now, do you think you'd be doing this kind of work if you hadn't been taken?
It's a good question.
I think that I probably would have just ended up working with spirit people because they've been so prominent and giving evidence about their existence.
Yeah.
I've started off working as a mental medium many years ago, and then started to sit for trance states, altered states work, overshadowing, and the spirit people have been very, very good at evidencing themselves and giving dates for themselves. When they were born, when they died, who they were married to, even their street address, and we've been able to get the information from them. And that's good for us. That's good evidence. It may not be for other people, but that's okay.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
so I believe that I probably would have just continued on quite happily
Mm.
with spirit people. We really like working with spirits.
Yeah.
Quite often we get asked to go to people's homes, and we hear these stories. Oh, we need to clear this spirit from this house and that, and we just walk in and start talking to the spirits, and the spirits are really good. They're like, yeah, look, nobody's listening to me. Thank God you've turned up. We need someone that actually understands what they're doing rather than walking around doing EVP and is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? Sort of thing. That
Right.
it just doesn't work. And spirits are like, we need people that we can communicate with. So we spend time teaching people how to do that.
I think a lot of it with a lot of buildings that have activity. I think that's a lot of the story. Is they're just the ghosts that are there, the spirits that are there, want to have that conversation, and that's why they're there.
Always.
And then
Yeah.
nobody can tune in,
Yeah.
to what they want said. So yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%
Yeah.
percent with.
We've been to a couple of old, or many old haunted hotels and
Yeah.
places, and people go, yeah, we've had all those spirits cleared out. And I look around, there's all the spirits just standing there. And I'm like, yeah, right. That probably didn't work very well. But anyway.
Yeah. And I think a lot of spirit activity in people's homes is completely misunderstood
Yeah.
as well. They interpret what's going on as, it must be some horrendous, awful spirit, and it turns out to be, the spirit of a little girl, and
Or their grandmother.
or the grandmother or whatever, and they're upset because people have just moved into their old bedroom. As far as the spirit's concerned, that's still their bedroom.
Yeah.
Now, when you go into a place like that, do you see the way it looked before all the new renovations were done?
I can, but generally the spirit people, like I was in a hotel in the UK, and a lot of the hotels and buildings over there are hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit people, when they're walking, say, down a big set of stairs in their clothing that they would have worn back then, around them is generated a field that shows you the fabric of where they were walking. So the stairs that they're walking on would have been of the same period that they were dressed in and that they lived in. But and as they move down the stairs, it changes with them.
Hmm. I never heard that. That is really cool. I've never heard that.
Well, I guess that's the benefits of doing deep trance work is with spirit people. You get to know them quite well, and then when you come across other spirit people, you're able to see them fully formed in their own clothing. They can speak to you quite clearly. It's a good journey. I like it.
Now, when you contact, you know, the Zetas or the aliens, how do you do that? I mean, are you going across dimensions, or how's that contact go? Because I mean, they're like way out in space.
Yeah. So some races are actually three-dimensional, but they're multiphasic. So the Zetas live in the Zeta reticulum, it's 39 light years away. But the difference is with there's actually it's possible to travel faster than the speed of light, but through thought. There is no speed limitation to telepathic communication,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why people are able to communicate with spirits one on one quite quickly with extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings. And I've learnt a method that I've taught Syann and other people that's called heterodyning, and heterodyning is a good, safe way to learn how to build energy around you and contact your guides and races as well.
Very different process to working with spirit people.
Yeah.
Very different.
I would think so. I would think so. Can you give me a kind of example of a conversation you've had, or they've had through you?
The Zetas.
Yeah.
Oh,
Look at the
goodness.
primer.
I mean, pick a subject, and they've probably spoken about it.
The primer and the Zeta interviews. We give away two free books off our website. One is called the Zeta Interviews. It was written by a scientist with all the information that came through. And then the Zeta Interviews is 700 pages. And basically people download it, and then using the find function or the search function, they then type in keywords looking for things such as abduction or hybrids or whatever, and you'll find that the Zetas would probably have spoken nearly all subjects.
Yeah, it's 700 pages of of raw transcript, question answer. It's literally any subject they would have spoken about it. That's like a couple of years worth of conversations. These books are like bricks.
Excuse me a second. God, my allergies are so bad today. Tell me about life on board the ship. What's it like?
Life on board a ship.
If you're talking about the beings that are on craft, it would depend. So some of the craft, the sort of basically city-size craft, it's all business as usual. People working with extraterrestrials, or extraterrestrials working with people, or working with their own race. They're performing a function like you do. You would sleep, you would eat, you would manage your daily routine. Nothing really changes across civilizations. Even if you're an interdimensional, I'll give you an example. If you're a spirit person, and you'll still see yourself in physical form if you want to, you'll still see yourself walking along a physical path. You could have a physical house to you. So spirit realm has a physicality to it. Same as interdimensionals, they do as well. And so when these beings are going about their daily business or they're on craft, they have routines just as humans do. It might be a different routine, but they'll be using technology to support themselves like humans do. They may have to eat or not eat depending on the race that they're from. It'll also depend on what type of connection they have to all the other beings and how they communicate with each other as well.
Interesting. Do they have Any messages or warnings for us here on Earth?
Better start looking after the planet a lot better, because in the end, this is the only planet that we've got. We know that humans are going to, well, are trying to leave planet and travel across the solar system to other places, even across the entire galaxy, I guess. But humanity has so much capacity to be more, to be more giving, more loving, more kind, more interactive towards the planet that they live on. I know that many people don't like what goes on this planet. Uh, People like to spend time in nature. They like the trees. They don't like to see the devastation on the planet. They want to be responsible with the resources as well of the planet. And I think that this is where it's all heading in the future, that people just are more knowledgeable about their own environment and what they can interact with and how they can safely sustain the planet as well.
Did the Zetas ever tell you how far back they've been coming to Earth?
Well, this species of humans that exists here hasn't been here very long, and the Zetas and other races have been coming here well before humans existed. So when humans say this is their planet, it actually isn't their planet as well. And basically, we are caretakers of a planet, and we need to be very careful about how we manage their resources.
So, were you able to talk to them, because I mean, there's cases of aliens coming back in ancient Egypt and stuff. Were you able to talk to them about anything like that?
So I didn't quite hear what you
Oh,
said. There are
okay.
cases of.
Well, I mean, there's examples from ancient Egypt of the possibility that aliens were visiting back then. Were you were you guys able to have conversations about that with them or no?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been coming for generations.
Uh-huh.
The Zetas knew this species before. We look like we do now.
Right.
Still walking around as hairy, hairy gorillas. Before we were modified. They know ancient Egypt. Yes, basically, they've just been here for as long as we have, and before.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to. Was that did they have any comments about how far we have evolved, or do they think we've evolved, quite a ways, or do they think we're still backwards?
The Zetas consider us as a young developing race. I think would be
Yeah.
the most accurate way to describe it. They describe many of the things we deal with on this planet, like war and starvation, as phases that all races generally go through and have to overcome. All races have to learn to grow up and be more responsible for where they live and for each other. And humanity is no different.
Yeah, I was just wondering because when you think about how ancient Egypt was, I mean, to us it's primitive. So I'm just wondering if they're watching us evolve and they like what they see.
Yeah, I would suggest that they are assisting us in our developmental processes to become more than we are in consciousness. The Zetas very much support this planet, this environment.
And
They
other
support
races.
humanity and other races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And I keep saying interesting because it is. It's fascinating to me.
It is.
The knowledge you guys have gained all your life, as contactees, to be able to share that with people on Earth.
Yeah.
Is that one of the goals of them, taking you guys is to have you share some of this information out?
The information's in the primer of the Zeta race and the Zeta interviews. If they read it, they'll see that there's aspects of it. I know people that read the books continuously because there's so much information in them, and information about developmental things as well. What is frequency? What is vibration? What are the processes for development and contact?
Now, when you guys were taken, and was it hard to tell people? And I know you told your Paul, you told your family. Was it hard for you to come out and tell people that you had been taken?
I didn't say anything for a long time. I just kept it to myself. It's more about, there's a big difference between walking outside and seeing a light in the sky and actually living a life where it's involved with other races. It's as though for you it just becomes normal. And so to come out and discuss that is based around watching other people now having a lot of contact as well, and helping them understand that people need to stay grounded and people need to think about what aspects of their life do they want to involve this contact with their own lives, how much of their own abilities do they want to develop. And people need to understand that if there's an extraterrestrial or spirit person contacting them, that there's a level of guidance that comes from these beings as well. And there's ways to evidence that contact. And people should be heavily evidencing the beings that are coming to them. Because just like humans or spirits, not all beings are here for our well-being.
So when we talk about the different race, let's look at that a little bit, alien races. Now, the Zetas obviously are more calmer. I mean, they don't want to hurt us. I mean, are there races out there that want to do harm to us?
I'm not sure that I've seen anybody get harmed by an extraterrestrial. I mean, it may have happened. I haven't seen it. I'd say that it's more based around influence. Can a person be influenced? And do their behaviours allow influence as well? And if there are, then there's beings definitely around the astral fabric, around the edges of these energies that are seeking to influence humans' behaviour, for sure.
Because you do hear stories occasionally from people that have been contacted, you know, that there's, the reptilians, for instance, you know, where they're more they're much more of an aggressive species than the other aliens. Yeah,
but people need to realise that they've always existed in the communication fabric. It's like, you know, we are surrounded by frequency. If you think about a radio and all of the radio stations, well, one of those is the reptilian frequency. Now, if your behaviour is based around the same frequency as them, then they can influence what you do, what you think in some way. There are people that are quite happy to have reptilians as guides. Other people basically need to learn to clear their energy so they don't have that type of influence around them either. We have free will. We all have choice as to who we interact with.
And how do they feel about the work you do?
So how does who feel?
The Zetas. How do they feel about the work you do?
Well, they're part of it, so they would be acknowledging that humanity has a long way to go, and also that we all have potential to move into higher vibratory states, that we all have the ability to have levels of contact. And so from them, they're actively working, as are other races as well, and spirits, to support humanity in humanity's development.
Excellent. So what do you say to people that might have been, you know, contactees and they're kind of afraid of it?
I would suggest that they don't go down the rabbit hole of looking on social media for answers. There's a lot of fear-based narrative out there that's very easy to kind of buy into. And if you were to look into it more deeply, you'd realize that the information that's been presented probably hasn't been evidenced in a way that could be relied upon. I would suggest to a person who is in fear of the contact that they believe that they have they actually been physically harmed? A lot of contactees don't understand why they're being contacted, and in the absence of information, that creates fear. But when they stop to evaluate what has actually happened, they realize that they haven't been harmed, and quite often there's been healing involved. It's a kind of a human precondition that when we don't understand something, we fear it. So yeah, there's a couple of options there, and most of it is based around common sense.
I agree with you there. In fact, when you think about ghost investigating, which is what you kind of talked about earlier, was how much things have changed. And I think it's the media, I think it's TV shows. Because I remember back 15, 20 years ago, it was always a relative that was in the house. You know, when you went in there, it was a grandma or something that wasn't going to harm people. But because people are seeing this stuff in the media and on TV and all this, right away they think it's demonic.
Another thing is well, people do that, but what they also don't realise is that when they're walking through a house, their subconscious spirit, their subconscious mind can also create what are called servitors, and these servitors exist in the astral. And so imagine a husband and wife in a house, and all they do is argue. At some point in time, it triggers an astral event. Someone then walks into the house after they've left and believes that it's some sort of aggressive spirit, but it's actually an astral entity that's been created. Absolutely. People need to learn the differences. This is why the protection course is so good, because it discusses all of these different things.
And how can people sign up for those?
Syann?
Cool. Well, they can.
They just contact us via email. They can email
us. Yeah.
They can do it that way.
Just send us an email.
Absolutely. And what are your emails?
It is the Zeta connection at hotmail.com.
Okay, cool. Is there any message you have for people here on, I know we kind of touched on this earlier, is there any particular message that you guys have for people here on Earth that has been passed down through the Zetas?
Yeah. Humans are more. They have the capacity to be more, and that people should look internally at their higher self, their nature. They should understand that they are observing themselves in 24-hour cycles, that when you sleep, that you are, as a construct, contacting your higher self, and that you are abiding in relationship with yourself, that your body is with you on a journey, and that you need to be in harmony with yourself so that you can reach out to other guides who love you.
Wonderful. Another question I had, and it's right on the tip of my tongue here, is in the work that you guys do, how many people do you think you've helped or that you've worked with over the years?
Oh my God.
Thousands.
Yeah. Easily.
Oh, easily thousands. We don't even know how many books we've given away either. We think we may have given away a couple of 100,000 digital copies of the books as well. So
they've been free for over 10 years now, so people just come and get them.
And then people will contact me and say, I read that book 5 times, and I'll be like, okay, wow, that's like a big effort. Why did you read it 5 times?
And then they'll say, and every time I read it,
I got a new insight into something.
Yeah, the book does that.
Oh, that's really good. That's really wonderful. I started reading your books too. It's really cool. They're really nice. They're really nice. They're very informative and stuff.
Thank you.
What do you think is going to happen as far as, you're still contactees? Every time you get taken to the ship, is it something different, or is it for the same thing? Like, you're being tested or something going on? Are you learning something every time they take you?
It's individual. So think about this, that if a human is a hybrid, so it's if you're an extraterrestrial and a spirit person in one physical form, your race will be visiting you, and what they'll be doing is they'll be looking at your cellular structure to see how the frequency of the extraterrestrial mind is embedded with the physical form. Spirit people naturally embed themselves in physical form at the point of conception, and so when the extraterrestrials come and abide in symbiotic relationship with the human, what happens is often it's a lifelong journey of being contacted to make sure that the hybrid's actually going okay. This is why we don't find generally that people that come to us have ever been harmed, even though they've been on craft many times. They get to the point where they go, I want to talk to them. I don't want to just be on craft. I actually want to talk to them. And so we take it from there and start working towards contact with them.
Okay, cool. It's always great to have you guys on.
Thank you.
This was wonderful, and I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where can people find you?
Our website is thezetaconnection.com. If you just pop that into Google, it'll all come up.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Again, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you being patient this week too, with me, to get you to do this because I had some stuff come up. But thank you, and I would love later on down the line to have you guys back on again. I mean, you're fun to talk to. I learned so much.
We've still got to talk about all the spirit stuff.
Yeah.
See, we still got spirit stuff to talk about. So yeah. I just wanted to touch on some stuff, about, the after effects of going up there today, and that's what we did. So, yeah. I really appreciate it, guys. All right? All right.
Thank you.
You guys have a great rest of the week.
You too. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Okay, I've learned so much tonight, and like I said, I'll try and get them back on again so that we can talk about the spiritual stuff as well. Tomorrow... no, not tomorrow. There's no tomorrow. Not on this one. Okay, anyway, I don't know what's going on tomorrow. Anyway, because this has been pre-recorded, so I don't know what's going on tomorrow. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming. And if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you hated the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We're just trying to get the word out for the show. And the more you do it, the more you get the word out, the more people watch us, and the more people give us thumbs up and all that good stuff. So please do that. And again, if you're watching from Facebook and you like what you saw tonight, please be sure to give us some thumbs up and some hearts. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and follow. And also, same thing on YouTube. If you like what you see, give us some thumbs up and hearts. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, because we're always looking for subscribers. Okay? Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. And enjoy. I'll give you their contact information as well. So here we go. Website, the Zetaconnection.com, and there's dashes in between the Zeta and connection. And they do have a lot of books out that you can peruse, even on their website. So be sure to check that out. The ones that I have here is the Zeta Race. Okay, practical mindfulness and energy work. Sorry, I'm blind, can't read that one. Mine's bad. Okay, 7 chakras was that one, and the beginner's guide to astral travel. And you can get those on their website or Amazon. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you guys tomorrow with a nice live show. All right, have a good one.